Welcome back. The U.S. now leads the world in confirmed monkeypox cases. This according to the CDC. As you can see there are more than 3,800 confirmed cases here in the U.S., and that number continues to increase every day.
Now, although federal health officials say tens of thousands of vaccines have been distributed and another 1.5 million doses are soon to come, many are saying the U.S. still isn't moving fast enough to contain the virus and help those most at risk.
Joining us now is Perry Halkitis, Dean at the Rutgers School of Public Health. He's known for his research on the health of LGBTQ populations. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning on this really important conversation, I think, that needs to be had. The virus, at the moment, appears to be spreading primarily amongst gay and bisexual men, but now there's a concern that a dangerous stigma will be attached to the virus, that it only affects this group of people, which is certainly not true. So what risk does that association pose to the general public?
So first of all, good morning. Good to see you both again. Thank you for having me. I'm old enough to remember, the two of you are not, the 1980s when HIV first appeared in our mix. And at that time, we called this disease GRID, gay-related immune deficiency. And gay men were bombarded with stigma at that time. The fact of the matter is right now, in 2022, monkeypox is a disease that can affect everyone, but it is true. It is creating undue burden in gay and bisexual men. This is not to say that the disease is going to stay in this part of the population, but it is also incredibly important for us to state this is not a gay disease. So we have to be very careful in our messaging to recognize that everywhere around the world, anybody, regardless of their sexual identity, could become infected with this virus.
And it seems, to me anyway, I'll speak for myself, on my Twitter feed, which is where, a lot of news does come from, you see it on either end of the spectrum, where it's like people are either over-reporting that it happens in only this community, which is not true, or under-reporting it and not really giving that kind of context. And so there's danger in both ways, I think. But what populations are at greater risk of contracting the virus necessarily?
So I think, first of all, I love the point you make, because everybody's walking a really fine line here.
Yeah.
Do we elevate it up and say, it's primarily in the gay population, or do we dilute it and say it affects everyone? Right now, the majority of infections in the United States are in gay and bisexual men, but we know there are cases that are affecting, there are cases that have been identified in children. There is no reason to believe that everyone cannot get infected. This is a disease that is not about sex. This is a disease that is about human contact. So you can hug your child, you can hug your grandma, you can hug your friend, you can touch materials that are infected. Anybody can get it. So everybody in the United States is potentially at risk unless we do a much more rapid and much more effective job in getting vaccines in the arms of people who are potentially at higher risk right now, which is the population of gay and bisexual men.
And why is that? What is it about the behavior of the community? Why is it that in that community in particular, what makes it any different than any other virus, that is spread through touching or even breathing?
Right. So what I've been saying for the last couple of months is that the virus entered the population of gay and bisexual men in Western Europe, in Portugal, at a rave, right? It could have been a straight wedding. It could have been a quinceañera. It could have been a baptism. It could have been a church picnic. But in fact, it was this event. And as a result, it has spread in the gay and bisexual community.
Got it. Right. So it does seem now that the U.S. government and, of course, the World Health Organization are now just starting to take the outbreak a little bit more seriously, perhaps a little too late. But what should Americans know when it comes to vaccinations and testing, and who should be lining up right now? Should everyone be lining up? Just kind of what should people be doing to prepare for the potential further community spread?
Well, right. So there's differential risk. And I will say again, being an older human being who was born before 1972, I have a smallpox vaccination. You two likely do not have a smallpox vaccination. I have some protection as a result of the smallpox vaccination. So I would say young folks, folks who are socializing in large social circles, straight, gay, bi, who are going to raves, who are going to parties, who are not vaccinated for smallpox, they should be the ones who should be lining up right now for the vaccine. Primarily gay and bisexual men, but not exclusively gay and bisexual men. Hopefully there'll be enough doses so that anybody who wants the vaccine will be able to get it. But right now, I would say my priority, if I were to prioritize, I would say young folks in their 20s and 30s who are socializing, who are engaging with each other, and who are not vaccinated for smallpox should be the first in line to get this vaccine.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. Perry Halkitis, Professor of Public Health and Equity at Rutgers University. As always, good to see you, and thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
And coming up at 10.